God's chosen ones. These 5 symptoms only start in the third awakening. Her breath didn't stop. It just stopped belonging to her. One morning, Naomi sat upright in bed, gasping for air. No fever, no virus, only stillness and a weight in her chest that no doctor could explain. She yawned when she wasn't tired. She sighed when nothing was wrong. Her lungs weren't failing. They were trying to speak, because what looked like a breakdown was actually the body becoming a vessel for a new frequency. Your breath, the spirit whispered. It's no longer just air, it's an altar. If your body's been acting strange lately, if the symptoms come without reason, if silence hums louder than words, then maybe, just maybe, you're not sick, you're chosen. And if that's true, this message was written in heaven with your name on it. The day her breath turned sacred, Naomi used to trust her body. As a medical receptionist, she'd seen every kind of symptom walk through those double doors. She believed in charts, in blood work, in prescriptions that fixed things. She believed in logic, in rhythm, in knowing what was wrong and how to treat it. But lately, her body had stopped asking for help. It had started speaking in a new language. It began with her breath. Not shortness exactly, more like her lungs were trying to hold something too large, too holy. She'd wake up in the night, not gasping, not choking, but aware of something pressing against her rib cage, like her spirit had outgrown its home and was begging for more space. She went to urgent care 3 times in 6 weeks. EKG, normal. Oxygen levels, perfect. Anxiety? Maybe. They handed her a pamphlet and a prescription, but nothing quieted the feeling. The worst part wasn't the symptoms. It was that no one believed her. Not even she believed herself. Until the humming began. At first, it was in her hands, when she'd sit still, then in her chest when she'd pray. Not pain, not panic, but something that felt alive. One night, while washing dishes, Naomi whispered out loud, "God, if I'm not sick, what is happening to me?" And in the silence, something stirred. No angel wings, no thunder, just a holy hush and a whisper inside her bones. You're not being punished, you're being activated. From that moment, everything changed. The headaches, the shoulder pain that moved, the ringing in her ears, the way her breath would suddenly deepen, uninvited, uncontrollable. None of it was random. It wasn't stress. It was awakening. Her body wasn't breaking down. It was breaking open. So if you've been told it's anxiety, but it feels spiritual, if your body no longer obeys logic, if you've been vibrating in silence and don't know why, then maybe what you're feeling isn't fear. Maybe it's God. And maybe, like Naomi, you're not crazy. You're chosen, and your soul is finally speaking through your skin. Part 1. The breath that wouldn't obey. She woke up again. Same time as always. Not from a nightmare, not from a sound. Just awake and gasping. It wasn't that she couldn't breathe. It was that the act of breathing itself felt like trespassing. Naomi sat on the edge of her bed, one hand on her chest, the other gripping the bedsheet. Her heart wasn't racing, her lungs weren't collapsing, but it felt like something, beneath her breath, was pulling her deeper. She inhaled, long, slow, and then again, louder, longer. Nothing to calm herself, but because her body demanded it. "Where am I breathing like this?" she whispered. She looked at her hands. No tremor, no fever. But still, the sighs kept coming. At the kitchen sink, she caught herself exhaling loudly. While scrolling her phone, a yawn, unearthed, stretched out of her like grief. Even in stillness, her chest moved like she was climbing stairs in her soul. At work, it got worse. During a staff meeting, while the manager spoke in numbers and charts, Naomi closed her eyes for a moment. And there it was again, a tightness in her chest, not fear, not illness, just pressure, a rising, a pushing. Her lungs didn't want air, they wanted release. She excused herself, stepping outside. Cool air hit her skin. She took another deep breath and felt tears rise behind her eyes. For no reason, or maybe for every reason. God, she prayed, hands in her coat pockets. What is happening to me? And in the hush of that wind-chilled morning, she heard it. Your breath has become a bridge. It no longer carries oxygen, it carries me. That night, Naomi lay in bed and noticed something. She wasn't the one breathing, was breathing her, like the spirit itself had slipped inside her lungs and was gently pushing her ribcage open from the inside out. Her breath wasn't trying to calm her. It was trying to expand her, to make room for something holy. The next morning, she didn't panic when the sighs came. She didn't yawn and worry. She let her body speak. And when she asked again, "Am I okay?" the answer was a whisper in her bones. You're not okay. You're awakening. And your lungs are the first altar to rise. Part 2. The pain that moved like a map. It started with her jaw. A sudden tightness while she answered emails, like she'd been clenching it in her sleep, but she hadn't. Then, 3 days later, the pain disappeared and reappeared in her shoulder. Naomi pressed into the ache, convinced it was posture, tension, maybe stress. She started Googling symptoms. Nothing made sense. No pattern, no injury, no relief. She took ibuprofen. It helped. Until it didn't. And then the pain moved again. Lower back, left knee, the arch of her foot, like her body was pointing to places even she couldn't interpret. "Have you been sitting too long?" Janelle asked, half concerned, half distracted. Naomi gave her a practiced smile. No more than usual. She didn't say what she really wanted to say. It's not physical, it's prophetic. Because how do you explain to someone that your muscles are remembering things your mind forgot? That night, Naomi lay on her couch with a heating pad. But no matter where she placed it, the pain moved. Like a ghost. Not haunting her, but highlighting her. Then it came. Not a thought, but a revelation. These aren't symptoms, the Spirit said. They're sacred exits. Pain is the smoke, but trauma is the fire. And I'm putting it out room by room. Naomi sat upright. She saw it. The jaw pain. For the years she silenced herself. The shoulder pain. For the burdens she carried for people who never asked how heavy it was. The footache. For the dreams she abandoned, the paths she never walked. None of this was random. Her body was mapping her healing. At church that weekend, the pastor preached about healing. But it wasn't his words that undid her. It was the moment during worship when the singer held the word freedom longer than the note allowed, and Naomi felt a sharp twist in her hip, followed by a sudden release. She gasped, not from pain, but from the absence of it. And in that empty space she heard heaven say, "You're not being punished. You're being cleared. This is not affliction. It's extraction. I'm pulling sorrow out of your bones." For the first time in weeks, Naomi didn't resist the ache. She welcomed it. She thanked it. She wrote in her journal, "My body is a map, and pain is how my past finally leaves the places it's overstayed." She closed the book, closed her eyes, and slept without aching. Part 3. The food that rejected her. She stood in front of the refrigerator, full, but nothing felt edible. Leftover pasta, garlic bread, chocolate from a co-worker's birthday, microwave dinners she used to crave after long days. But now, just looking at them made her stomach clench. She closed the door, opened it again. Still no peace. Naomi wasn't fasting, she was being fasted. Her body rejected sugar. Meat left her nauseous. Even her favorite hazelnut creamer now tasted like chemicals. It was like her taste buds had changed religions. She called it a phase, until her grandmother's voice returned. From a memory buried deep, "The soul don't just eat with the mouth, baby. It eats with the heart. That's why some food makes you heavy, even if your stomach's full." Naomi whispered back into the quiet, "So what do I do when everything makes me heavy?" The answer came in craving. She found herself reaching for cucumbers, grapes, ginger tea, sunlight, things she never planned, things that felt like they were choosing her. She Googled symptoms again. Sudden food aversions, loss of appetite, spiritual meaning. Nothing explained it, until one blog post said, "Where your frequency rises, your gut becomes a spiritual gatekeeper." That line hit her like lightning. She thought of that time she ate a burger out of habit and cried afterward. Not from guilt, but from grief. "My body," she journaled, "is no longer just digesting food. It's digesting alignment. Anything that doesn't feed my becoming, I can't stomach it." Sunday dinner came. Her family passed plates, heavy with butter, cheese, meat. Naomi politely declined, scooping salad onto her plate instead. Her cousin laughed. "Girl, you on a diet now?" She smiled, not defensive, just different. "No," she said softly. "I'm just listening to what my body won't eat anymore." That night, she lit a candle and prayed, not for healing, but for understanding. And the spirit whispered back, "You're not starving. You're being refined. I'm changing your appetite so I can change your assignment." She sipped her tea, felt peace flood her belly, felt a light rise in her blood, and she knew she was being emptied, that heaven could fill her.
Part 4. The Fire and the Freeze. Sky said 72 degrees. But Naomi felt like she was walking through 2 seasons at once. One moment, heat flushed through her chest, like fire had been lit behind her heart. The next, a chill ran down her spine, like ice water had kissed her bones. She looked around. No storm, no sun shift, just stillness. But her body felt like a weather system. She removed her sweater, then put it back on. Then sat on a bench, hands pressed to her chest, not in panic, in awe. This wasn't menopause. This wasn't fever. This was something holy. A small child passed by, holding her mother's hand. She paused, looked at Naomi, just stared. Not afraid, curious. Naomi smiled. The child whispered almost reverently, "You're glowing," then ran off. Naomi's throat caught. She closed her eyes. Nodded. "What are you doing to me?" And in the warmth rising from her belly, and the cold sweeping through her shoulders, she felt it. Not a diagnosis, a declaration. "I'm purifying your vessel. The heat is me burning what no longer belongs. The cold is..." Her body, once grounded in routine and comfort, now moved like a temple under renovation. The ascent was heat in her hands when she prayed, cold rushes when she entered rooms charged with spiritual weight, tingling behind her ears when she heard a lie, goosebumps when truth was near. This wasn't anxiety. This was energy realignment. Later that week, Naomi was in line at the post office when her neck flushed red hot. No anger, no fear, just a sudden knowing the woman behind her was grieving. She turned, gently asked, "Are you okay?" The woman broke into tears. No words, just release. That night, Naomi stood barefoot on her back porch, moonlight bathing her skin, and she whispered, "Thank you for the fire. Thank you for the freeze. Thank you that my body is learning to feel what heaven feels." And somewhere deep within, her cells clapped in worship. Not loud, but faithful.
Part 5. The Awakening Hidden in Silence. The sermon had ended, the crowd gone, but Naomi stayed, not to pray, not to sing, the identity, to sit. There was something sacred about the stillness that followed worship, the way the room sighed after praise like lungs finally resting. She sat in the third pew, hands in her lap, breathing quietly. And then it began again. The buzzing, it started in her fingertips, then her knees, then her chest, a soft hum under her ribs, like a quiet engine turning. She looked around. No one. No speakers, no phone in her pocket. Just the sanctuary. Just her. And the unmistakable vibration of something alive inside her. She had felt this before, alone in her room, in the park, under trees, when watching testimonies on YouTube that made her cry. But here, in the sanctuary, it felt undeniable, undeniably spiritual. "God," she whispered, barely audible. "What is this feeling?" The answer didn't come in words. It came in frequency, a sensation, like being tuned. It's like her nervous system was no longer hers, but heaven's instrument. That's when she felt a presence beside her. Not loud, not grand, just gentle. It was Elder Miriam, the quiet widow who rarely spoke. She sat slowly, hands folded, eyes soft. Then, without looking at Naomi, she spoke. "Colonel, fight the trembling. You're not breaking. You're becoming readable to heaven." Naomi froze. Miriam turned to her and added, "You're feeling the activation. When your body starts humming for no reason, it's because the veil is thinning. You're feeling the language of the spirit before words." Tears slipped down Naomi's cheeks. No sobs, no noise. Just the quiet grief of someone who had been misunderstood for too long. Someone whose body had been dismissed when it was trying to prophesy. She looked at her hands, still lightly pulsing. "You're not crazy," Miriam said, rising slowly. "You're chosen. The shaking is not weakness. It's worship your body hasn't learned how to release yet." That night, Naomi wrote a new entry in her journal. "My silence is no longer empty. It's electric. When I am still, I am being sung through." She closed her journal and sat again in the dark. And as the buzz returned, this time in her chest, like wings preparing to unfold, she smiled. "This is the sound of my soul, learning to stand upright where the body becomes the Bible." The tremors didn't stop, but the fear did. Naomi no longer panicked when her chest hummed at 3 a.m. She didn't flinch when her breath deepened on its own. She didn't question the pressure behind her eyes, the fire in her hands, or the chills that traced her spine during worship. Because now she understood. Her body wasn't malfunctioning. It was memorizing God. Sat with her journal, tracing back through pages filled with confusion, pain, and questions. And she realized something. She had been reading scripture all along, but now her body had become one. Every ache a psalm, every vibration a whisper from Isaiah. Every night a still trembling, a modern Gethsemane. You're not just carrying the word, God had said. You are becoming the living letter I'm writing to the world. She used to beg God for healing. Now she whispered, "Thank you for the fire, because it taught me to listen. Thank you for the shaking, because it taught me to wait. Thank you for the silence, because you were speaking through it all." So to you, dear one, if your body has betrayed your expectations, if no diagnosis fits, if your breath no longer obeys the rules of this world, you are not alone. You're not malfunctioning. You're metamorphosing. This isn't fear. This is frequency. This isn't sickness. It's scripture being written into your skin. Maybe God didn't choose you to be seen, but to be sustained in secret. Maybe your body isn't broken. Maybe it's holy, and it's simply tired of pretending it's not. Are you sure you're not one of the chosen? Just because no one ever told you what awakening feels like? If this story felt like your own, comment, "My body is awakening," and let someone else know. They're not going crazy. They're being called. If you felt seen in this, subscribe now, because the next story, it goes even deeper. Support this mission with your heart, with your faith, and with a simple share, because someone out there is shaking in silence, and they need to know it's sacred.